Hi everyone, Grover from Upscale here today, and I'm going to be talking to you about the Meze Elite. So as you might know, I don't like to bury the lead. These are really, really awesome. Now, I think one of the most interesting things about Meze is the progression as a company. So back several years ago, they started out with a headphone called the Neo Classic 99. Now that was a $300 headphone, which was priced at obviously a more affordable price point than the $4,000 Elite we're going to be talking about today. And it was aimed at a slightly more consumer market. It was a dynamic driver headphone with fairly high efficiency that could be plugged into a headphone, amped from something like an iPhone. Now, move forward a couple of years, Meze starts to develop their own proprietary planar magnetic technology in the Renaro driver, and then the Empyrean comes out. Now, the Meze Empyrean at $3,000 was their first flagship planar magnetic headphone, and that made quite a splash in the community a couple of years ago. Next comes the Meze Elite, which has been relatively recently released in the last year or two, as well as the Meze Lyric, which is their first closed-back headphone. The Lyric comes in at $2,000, the original Empyrean comes in at $3,000, and the subject of today's video, the Meze Elite, comes in at $4,000. So this is the big daddy, or sort of the flagship of the Meze line. Now, build quality is one of Meze's strengths. They rival companies like Focal and Mr. Speakers when talking about build quality. Everything on it is very light, very high quality finish, wonderful brushed aluminum, carbon fiber headband, super supple leather strap. The ear pads are very plush and very comfortable. This headphone is actually one of the most comfortable headphones that I've ever worn. It just hits that right balance of not too heavy, not too light, and it really has a plush feel to it. You notice it, but you notice in a way that's actively pleasant. It reminds me a little bit of the old, very plush velvet Biodynamic pads from way back in the day. But this is a wonderful headphone to wear. It's very spacious. The ear cups, as you can see, have quite a large amount of space in them, so it never touches your ears, or at least for me, it never touches my ears. And I have a somewhat larger than average head. I find the adjustments very smooth, very easy to use, and generally have no problem with fit at all. As I said, it's one of my favorite headphones for overall wearing comfort. Now, in terms of the actual headphone, the specs are pretty simple: 32 ohm impedance and 101 decibel sensitivity. So these are not too hard to drive. They're a little bit more efficient than your average Odyssey, for example, but they do still like to have a little bit of power in them. They are a planar magnetic headphone after all, so something with a little bit of current is going to be a great choice. I just tried them out with the Pathos in-pole ear. That was fantastic sounding. The Name Unity Atom Headphone Edition is also a great choice for these if you want a little bit more of a linear amplifier. A Ferrum OOR would be a great choice for these, again, if you want something more neutral. A Pathos Orium would also be a really good choice for this headphone. Again, something a little bit warmer and smoother maybe than the Name. Now, in terms of the sound quality, the Meze Elite have a little bit of a warmer, richer tone than most headphones that are perfectly neutral. So something like an LCD5, or something maybe even like a Hi-Fi Man Susvara, or even a Stelia. Those are going to have a little bit more upper mid-range presence. Actually, Meze takes that sort of Harman curve, bass shelf, mid-dip, upper mid-rise, and then treble roll-off, sort of pretty closely, and then shaves off a little bit of the 3K and allows the bass to bloom a little bit more. So with a Meze headphone, generally, you're going to get a sound signature which is fairly linear within itself, but it's going to have a little bit of that 3K brought down, so it's going to be relaxed. And it's going to be a little bit more spacious sounding because of that. The sense of soundstage, especially in the Elite and the Empyrean, really wraps around your head in a way that I find very pleasing. It gets out of the head a little bit more. It's a little wider than something, again, like an LCDX or something like a Focal headphone, which is very upfront and very close. Now this forwardness in Focal headphones, again, is contrasted with kind of a laid-backness in Meze headphones, and I see them as sort of two sides of the same coin, both fairly in the realm of neutral-ish or linear-ish, but with slightly different styles. As I said, the Meze is a little bit warmer, a little bit more relaxed, and also a little bit softer in dynamic impact. It's not going to be quite as razor sharp or quite as jump out at you, quite as upfront. It also means that the Meze generally appeals to audiophiles who have been two-channel listeners and are looking for a headphone that's going to replicate that experience a little bit more. If you like Odyssey, or you like Focal, or you like a traditional headphone experience that's a little bit more in your head, and you don't mind the sounds being in your head, you don't mind that soundstage being a little bit closer into your head and a little bit more of an immersive headphone type of experience, something like the Meze might suit you, right? Because it gets a little bit, like I said, out of your head, a little bit more immersive, of a little bit more wrap around the noggin sort of a feel to it. And speakers really do that well. There's a sense of dynamics, a sense of liveliness, a sense of I'm sitting in my chair here and I have an auditory image sort of floating between the speakers. Again, these are still headphones, so they're not going to do that, but they will get you a little closer to that kind of experience, again, because of that sort of more relaxed presence region and that more spacious sound. Now, I also think that one of the reasons that the Meze are really popular with two-channel audiophiles is because they have a very silky sound and they have a wonderful bass presence. They really kind of have this enveloping, sort of rich sense of bass and a very silky top end. So as opposed to headphones that are maybe a little bit more linear for the absolute headphone enthusiast, these being a little bit warmer and letting the bass be a little bloomier and the treble a little silkier might appeal to a two-channel audiophile or an audiophile maybe who isn't into the whole Harman curve thing and just wants something that harkens back to the days when we kind of had really rich, warm sounding headphones. Now, as I mentioned, at $4,000, these are quite expensive, and I think a high-end amplifier really is worth your investment if you're going to go into something like a Meze. Now, I think that Felix Envy would be a really wonderful pairing with these. Obviously, that's quite expensive. So if you're looking for something a little bit less expensive, something like a Pathos Impul Ear will drive these quite well. I can see some people thinking that's a little bit too smooth, but I thought it was a really wonderful pairing. If you're looking for something a little bit brighter or a little bit just more linear and neutral, something like a Pathos Orium, again, gonna have a slight warm tilt. Something like a Ferrum OOR would be really killer with these. Linear with linear to warm. To me, that's a great combo. And then, as I mentioned, I actually really enjoyed the pairing of the Name Unity Atom Headphone Edition with these. It's got a dynamic and sort of muscular sound that Name is known for, but it's still relatively linear. And again, really drives the awesome bass on these headphones into sort of more of a tight and punchy region than maybe something like a warmer Pathos amp might. Overall, though, these are really fantastic headphones. I'm going to be spending more time with these. We just got these in and demoing these a lot more extensively. Very comfortable, wonderful sound for both traditional headphone listeners, but as well as two-channel listeners who maybe haven't gotten into headphones yet. For more information on these and all the other awesome products that we carry, check out upscaleaudio.com or get in contact with us. Also, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.